Predicted rain didn't make a significant impact in qualifying for the Hungarian Grand Prix, but we were treated to an excellent session. There's no surprises for who's on pole, but there were some shocks further down the grid, and we'll be getting into all of that on today's show. Welcome back to the Formula One Grid Talk podcast. Today we'll be analysing this weekend's Hungarian Grand Prix qualifying. We are powered by the F1 Chronicle. Visit f1chronicle.com for news, reviews and opinions on all things F1. Hosting today will be me, George Howson, and joining me today are sports journalist Louis Edwards.
Hello.
Multimedia journalist Ruby Price.
Hello.
And making a debut on the show, it's F1 journalist Grace Evans.
Hi.
No relation to Reese Evans, who is sometimes on the show. Possibly distantly, but who knows? But yes, let's start with the guy who is on pole. His 7th pole in Hungary, his 90th pole in Formula One. Lewis Hamilton, just unbelievable pace by him today. They showed you his onboard lap to get pole position, and that car is absolutely on rails around the Hungaroring.
Yeah, it was quite scary actually being on board. It's like, slow down, I don't know, it's like through turn 4. It's a blind corner. And he was just absolutely foot to the floor through turn, I think it's either 11 or 12. That quick right-hander, absolutely foot to the floor, crazy. It was an incredible lap, and it just shows like, low downforce, high downforce, that Mercedes is untouchable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they were just on another level today. They were almost a second ahead of all the other cars. But it was a good job by Bottas as well, Ruby. Just a 10th or so down on Lewis Hamilton, but it never really looked in doubt for him around this track. If he wins tomorrow, it will be an 8th win in Hungary, which will tie Schumacher's record for the most wins at any Grand Prix.
On this podcast, we've already considered Lewis Hamilton as, one of the greatest drivers, the greatest driver of the 21st century. But, Bottas was close throughout all 3 sessions today, gradually getting closer the further through the qualifying we went. And to finish, 1/10 off Lewis with the lap that Lewis set, I think commendations to Valtteri, to take the fight to Lewis when, as we saw, his car was basically, if Carlos Sainz is a smooth operator, Lewis Hamilton's just, operating on another level. Yeah, it's a good drive from Valtteri too. I think expecting to beat Lewis at the Hungaroring is a foolish position to be putting yourself in.
Well, you never know. Bottas could throw a spanner in the works tomorrow. It's all about the start at the end of the day. It's quite a long run down to turn 1 as well. So, but if Hamilton performed like he did in Styria, I don't think anybody's going to get close to him. So yeah, Mercedes won too. But third place, Grace, was Lance Stroll in the Racing Point. That car is good. We've seen it so far. But to be 3rd and 4th in qualifying today, really impressive by them to beat the Red Bulls.
Yeah, it was really exciting. There was so much talk about how Red Bull was going to be amazing at this track. And I really feel like those 2 cars just completely wiped everyone away. They're saying it's the pink Mercedes. And to be honest, the way he's driving it at the moment, it really seems like that.
Yeah, Lance Stroll doing a good job today. People come for criticism, obviously, of him, saying, he's a rich boy, he doesn't deserve his seat. But he beat Sergio Perez fair and square today. I think Sergio Perez said that he was unwell, Louis, that he wasn't 100% today, but still a decent performance by him. It's an all pink second row, and I believe they're starting on the medium tyres too. So as are the Mercedes, so they've got arguably the better strategy than the rest of the grid too.
Yeah, they do. And also, I am one of those people who do say he's a rich boy and doesn't deserve the seat. We'll just move on. No, Sergio Perez, yeah, he was a little bit off today. Stroll looked quicker in free practice and then converted that into qualifying. He looked pretty quick out throughout all the sessions. He did a remarkable job. I think the whole team in general has done a remarkable job to get that car so high up the grids, considering, they've had tough few years and they've sort of been really starting to climb, and it's really great to see.
It is, yeah. I was saying that they've got a genuine chance of 3rd place in the Constructors' Championship, but if they convert those positions to finishing positions tomorrow, they could get up the order. They could get ahead of Red Bull in a Constructors' standing, which would be incredible, really, for a team that was in administration 2 years ago. But perhaps the biggest surprise of qualifying, Ruby, was Ferrari's pace. 5th for Vettel, 6th for Charles Leclerc. The upgrades that they brought to this track are obviously working.
They are the upgrades that they brought to the Styrian Grand Prix that we never got to see. But Yeah, I'm surprised to see Ferrari that high up, to be honest. I mean, we were talking during the session. I was fully expecting a Ferrari to maybe drop out, even in Q1, perhaps. Like, it did look like there was a solid possibility, and then they managed to get the car hooked up. The more surprising thing for me is seeing Vettel higher than Charles at this point, because, well, historically, and by historically we mean one season, Charles has had, a handle of Sebastian. But yeah, I mean, if they're finally managing to get something out of this car, even if it is, a second and 3/10 slower than a Mercedes, I mean, fair play to them.
Yeah, they've definitely made progress. I'm surprised to see them as high up as they are, but fair play to them. Yeah, starting 5th and 6th for those guys. And Vettel keeps up his record of starting in the top 5 of every Hungarian Grand Prix since 2008 when he was in the Toro Rosso. Yeah, Grace. I mean, I'm quite surprised to see Ferrari as high up as they are, but they'll still be disappointed with being that low down on the grid. But you never know. They could if they have the race pace, because we've been speaking about the race pace, they could take on the Racing Points tomorrow, especially starting on the faster tyres.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think it'd be really great to be able to see them contend more, especially after last week when obviously we didn't have the opportunity to see them sort of show the potential that they've possibly got. It would be really great to see that. And especially, I would love to see Vettel definitely give a bit more to be able to fight the cars further up. It'd be really lovely to see him try and do that, especially after he won't be with them next year. That would be really cool.
Yeah, and you never know. This could be the last season we see Sebastian Vettel. Although there are a lot of rumours about him going to Racing Point, which will become Aston Martin for next year. But we'll cover that fully another time. Yeah, 7th place, Louis. Max Verstappen. Now, a few of us had him to win the race. I think all of us had him to at least finish on the podium this weekend. But I think that's partly because of an engine issue he was having in Q3.
Yeah, they seem to be sort of working quite sort of between his runs quite a lot on his car. He was having some balance issues as well. That car just was a mess today. It was down on it, probably down on power. Also, just the drivers just didn't seem to feel comfortable, trying to push that car. And at a track that Red Bull are very good at, they've got wins here. That's very worrying. We went from such a great opening weekend with Red Bull to then it's just become this sort of slippery slope. It's not what we want to see from what we originally thought was the second best car on the grid.
Yeah, they could well be the second best car on the grid, but that could be the Racing Point with the way things are going. I mean, the pace in that car is ridiculous, but yeah, Max Verstappen's going to be disappointed. I mean, if they're going to win any race this year, you'd think it'd be this one around Hungary. It's probably the highest downforce track we're going to get this year, with the likes of Singapore and Monaco not being on the calendar. It's disappointing for Verstappen. Disappointing as well for McLaren, Ruby. I mean, Lando Norris 8th, Carlos Sainz 9th, which last year wouldn't have been that bad, really. But I don't know about you. I was thinking they might get a bit higher. They might get to where Ferrari were.
I mean, when you put it into the context of, this year, McLaren have very much been a not quite front runner, but a front runner nonetheless. To see them in 8th and 9th, especially when they were running 4th and 5th, I think it was before the second phase of Q3, it's just rather unfortunate. If I remember correctly, they didn't finish their second runs in Q3, as quite a lot of cars didn't seem to do, I don't think either, or they just didn't improve on their times.
They improve on the times. I think it starts to get a bit wetter.
Yeah, it's a shame to see them starting there, and with the potential threat of a grid penalty for Carlos Sainz as well. Yeah, it's just sad to see McLaren, who have been finding their strength, down in 8th and 9th. But who knows? They might get it tomorrow.
Who knows? Yeah, I mean, Carlos Sainz with potential penalty for tomorrow, blocking Antonio Giovinazzi allegedly during Q1. From what I saw of it, I think he's going to get a penalty, to be honest, but we don't know. But yeah, a bit disappointing for McLaren. He expects them to do more. But Grace, what is encouraging for them is their race pace seems to be a lot better. And going off form from the first 2 races, they might well get fastest lap tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just really excited to see it. I mean, especially after how well Norris has been doing. I mean, getting the podium this year has been fantastic. I really think there's a lot of promise with that team. And especially as we were talking about earlier with Ferrari not quite being on it. And obviously Red Bull not performing up to their usual standard this year at this track. I really think there is a possibility for them to really come a bit further and really get some get some points for the Constructors' Championship. It'd be great to see.
It would be, yeah, and the second in the Constructors' Championship at the moment, although they'll do well to hold on to that for much longer if they continue to qualify like this. Overtaking in Hungary is never easy, and as Norris kind of alluded to in his interview after the race with Sky, it did not have the most powerful engine on the grid. They're looking forward to getting Mercedes engine in the back of that car for next year. But yeah, Pierre Gasly, 10th, Louis, but it could have potentially been more for him because he had engine issues of his own during this session.
Yeah, sort of back end of Q2, he seemed to have some engine problems. Like you heard him coming into the pit lane, and that it sounded awful. He was really sort of gravelly sort of engine noise. It wasn't pleasant, but there was nothing that they could do with it. And he was very fortunate that the track really didn't sort of evolve at the end of Q2. Like we were expecting some mega lap times to come from, the two Renaults and potentially the Red Bull of Alex Albon, but they just never came. So he was very lucky in that sense to get into Q3. But still, he wasn't able to set a lap time. And if they do have to change any parts potentially, that would be a bit sad. But if they're able to, sort out the issues that they're having, P10's a great starting place for a team which are really fighting to get some points.
Yeah, I mean, they are where you're expecting to be. Toro Rosso obviously qualified 10th, but he could well be starting at the back of the grid if he does get some penalties for changing components in his engine, which is definitely possible. Not this race, then maybe sometime in the future, because obviously they've got a limit for what they can use each season. But I think that's gone a bit haywire because obviously we don't know how many races we've got, so who knows what's happening with that. Disappointing day as well, again, for Renault, Ruby. I mean, Ricciardo 11th and Ocon 14th. This is a track you expect them to do a lot better at. You expect them to be solid points, but they just weren't at it today.
I mean, obviously, like the track layout of the Hungarian can sort of make up the deficit that the Renault engine has got, as sort of like evidenced by the McLaren at least. But yeah, Renault are a team who've got drivers who, expect to be in the top 10, if not higher than just in the bottom of the top 10. But the car just wasn't there today. Hopefully, I'm pretty sure we're all fans of Daniel Ricciardo and, want to see him smiling again. But, unless he gets a decent performance tomorrow, we might have to wait until, he's at another team for him to properly be happy.
Yeah. I mean, that car's just not really performing as we expected. Some people were saying that Renault were going to be dark horses going into the first race this season because of their upgrades, but it's just not materialised yet. And Ricciardo's going to need a few of his trademark lunges to get into decent points. Both of them, Ocon and Ricciardo, were speaking about, how much they like this track, how well they've done here in the past, but not really translating to results on the track yet, at least. 12th place, and arguably the performance of qualifying grace, was George Russell. I mean, both Williams in Q2, which is the first time we've seen that since the Italian Grand Prix 2 years ago.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. I mean, his lap, obviously second to Lewis Hamilton, but to be honest, definitely my favourite moment. It was fantastic. And I think it's really what the team needed. I mean, they've worked so hard and it just hasn't really been paying off for like a long time now. And I mean, I think it's wonderful as well before Claire Williams' birthday to be able to have that, to see both cars performing and to see the drivers actually achieving what they deserve. I think it's great for George Russell, especially considering his future. I think we'd definitely love to see him at a team that can really achieve for him, like Mercedes. So I think it was great for his career and great to see him just performing at his ability.
Yeah, really great to see Russell doing that. Got another great qualifying session for him as well. And let's not play down Nicholas Latifi either, Louis. I mean, he didn't do particularly great in qualifying, obviously in the last 2 weeks, but 15th place and on pure pace as well. He didn't exactly look into it.
Yeah, it was great. Honestly, absolutely amazing from both Williams drivers. And Nicholas Latifi, third race in Formula One, and he's, absolutely smashed it. We were seeing George, flying up the sort of the timing sheets, and then people seem to take very little notice of the fact that Latifi was also there. And yeah, he's going to do wonders for his confidence. He's got a guaranteed seat for next year now, so he's able to sort of push that bit more, just sort of see where the limit is. And he's really come out and shone and shown just how talented he really is.
It's great to see Williams keeping with Russell and Latifi for next year. It's really good for Latifi as well to get that contract sorted so soon, as such 3 races. It's great to see that. But yeah, I mentioned about him potentially being under pressure after the last few weekends. But Alexander Albon down in 13th, definitely unlucky for him. Just really struggling with traffic and his Red Bull, Ruby. But he seemed really frustrated on the radio too. I think he was telling his team, "Don't drop me out in traffic. Don't send me out in traffic." But it's up to him to sort that. He's out there on the track and he's got to find space.
Yeah, I mean, regarding the traffic comments as well, I'm pretty sure they were looking in the Sky Pad on Sky Sports F1, like any traffic that he saw, and the traffic that they showed wouldn't have impacted his performance on the lap. I just think, it's possibly the curse of having Verstappen as your, teammate, but people just don't tend to perform in the sister Red Bull. Like, if you look at Gasly last season, the first half of the season when he was in that Red Bull, he was nowhere. -1 race. But yeah, Alex Albon just didn't really look comfortable in the Red Bull today. And, he's pulled off some drives from the back, to have some astonishing results beforehand, provided he doesn't hit any Mercedes or McLaren cars hairpin corners. He might manage to stay in those top positions, but I guess we'll find out.
I guess we'll see. Obviously not got a great track record with not hitting guys this season. Whether it's fault or not, he's just attracted trouble. But I do feel sorry for him. I do think he should be given a lot more time. But it's Red Bull. You don't get that. I mean, the 2 guys in the AlphaTauri used to be Red Bull drivers, but they both got demoted. I mean, don't rule it out. Don't rule it out. I don't want to see him get demoted or anything, but you never know what's going to happen with that. But yeah, moving on further down the grid. Kevin Magnussen 16th and Grosjean 18th. Another bad day for Haas, Grace. I mean, the one kind of one thing they could have hoped for was a decent qualifying position going into the race, but they don't even have that.
No, I mean, it's like really a disaster, I think, for Haas at the moment. I think we were really expecting to sort of see the Williams 2 cars down there, and see those 2 out so soon was really awful. I mean, I don't know how much it's playing the whole situation with Haas at the moment as to, are they going to be in those seats next year? Perhaps that's sort of playing into it, but it's just a real shame to see them down so low. I think it was just a really bad day for that team today.
Yeah, not good at all. And with their brake issues in Austria, it's going to be a struggle to finish the race, you'd feel, tomorrow. I think we could see Sergio Perez at that team next year, but I hope I don't. I hope he stays in the Racing Point. I hope he gets to drive alongside Vettel, but I just personally don't see it.
Oh, that'd be brilliant, yeah.
It would be. It'd be a great driver lineup for him. It'd be brilliant, but I can't see Stroll demoting his son to test driver. I just can't see him doing it.
He's just such a great driver in that car. It would be horrible to see him have to move, but I guess it's who the team boss is, and yeah,
it's who the team bosses want. That's usually what. Usually it's the guy with the money, but I don't think even that's going to save him this time potentially. But yeah, Kvyat was 17th. Really not a good day for him, but it was worse for Alfa Romeo though, Louis. 19th and 20th. I mean, that car didn't exactly set the world alight in Austria, but to be on the back row, they're going to be devastated with that.
Yeah, that's a yikes moment. This is a big, oh no. They've not looked great since testing, and we knew we weren't going to be expecting much from Alfa Romeo this year. But it's just not going well. The drivers don't seem to be doing well in that car. They were they showed their onboards of laps from Kimi and Antonio. It just looked scrappy. That car didn't seem to be very settled. They were really fighting for grip, and it was just not looking good. And based on sort of free practice and disqualifying, you can't really expect much of them in the race. Usually they're both the last 2 Grand Prix, they've had fairly decent race pace. Kimi was doing very well in the last race, but I really struggled to see how they're going to do any better than gaining 1 or 2 positions each.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I think part of their problem, it's also Haas's problem too, is that the Ferrari engine's a lot more underpowered than what they were expecting to be. So they're having to trim downforce off the car, which around Hungary is just going to cost you heaps of lap time. And that's exactly what's happened. I mean, 4 of the bottom 5 cars, Ferrari-powered cars. I mean, Ferrari doing a lot better, obviously, but their customer team's doing really poorly. But yeah, I think that's the whole grid, really. We've gone through everybody. But yes, I hope you did enjoy the show. We will be going out on Facebook Live from now on for these shows. We'll be back tomorrow, 5 o'clock BST, to review the Hungarian Grand Prix. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Really do appreciate it.
No worries.
No worries.
Thank you.
So, yes, we are also available on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music, Omni Studio, and Pocket Cast. Just search for the F1 Grid Talk on them. We are also available on the F1 Chronicles website as well. But yeah, make sure to like the F1 Chronicles Facebook page too, just to see when we go out live in the future. But like I said, it will be from 5 o'clock tomorrow for the Hungarian Grand Prix review. We've got a big back catalogue of shows. I think this is number 41 or something like that. Not just race reviews and qualifying reviews. We've also got some interview pieces. Like we did an interview with Mario Isola, the head of Pirelli in F1, and also did some scandals like Tiregate. Please do check those out. But yeah, we will see you tomorrow for the Hungarian Grand Prix review. And we'll see you for that. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.